So we've got the outer part modeled, but now we need to work on the inner part. It can be modeled fairly similarly because the geometry is similar, but we're going to throw in some differences here and there. So if you want to pause the video after every feature and follow along, go for it. So I'm going to have you all watch for a while as we take a look at this part. This technique to investigate a part is pretty good if someone gives you a file or if you download a SOLIDWORKS model from the internet and want to see how it was modeled. If you look at the very bottom of the feature manager tree, there is a blue bar. This is the rollback bar. If you hover over that bar, you'll get the little hand symbol. You can grab that bar and drag it back in time to see how the part was modeled a feature at a time. If we bring it up here just below that first feature, we can let go and see how that first feature was created. If we double click on the Boss Extrude 1, we can see the dimensions for that feature. The black dimensions are from the sketch. The blue half-inch dimension is from the definition of the thickness of the extrusion. So this is very, very similar to the first part that we modeled, just the dimensions are a little bit different. A little bit smaller so they'll fit inside the larger part. If we scroll on down, we'll see that the next command is a shell command. In the first part, we create a cut that removed that material on the inside. Here we're going to see how the shell command could do the same thing. Let me show you how the shell command works. Let me start up another part. And on the front plane, I'll start a sketch. And I'm going to come in and draw a little bit of geometry that we can use to show the command. From here we can extrude it out. And the shell command is on the Features tab in the Command Manager. Once we start it up, we can define what the wall thickness is and then the faces to remove. So if we come in here and select on this top face, that face is going to go away, and then everything else behind it is going to get a uniform wall thickness. It's like a giant ice cream scooper comes in and cleans out the part. So we've modeled a very ugly shoe. If we click on the shell command again, we can edit the feature. And we've got this blue box. So with this blue selection box, we can select other faces without having to hold down the control key. So if we pick this face on the end and then right click, we now have a piece of air conditioning ducting or an elbow. If we go back and edit that feature again, we can pick a couple more faces. But if we have a face that we've already selected and we want to remove it from the list, all we have to do is pick it again. Now we've got maybe a cardboard container for holding magazines. So let's go back and take a look at how our part was done. If we edit the shell command here, the front, the back, and the bottom faces were all removed, and that leaves us with the outer faces all getting this 3/8 of an inch wall thickness to them. So just another way to create, that same shape. If we scroll on down a little bit, we can take a look at the next feature. There's a little post there on the side. Again, if we double click on that feature, we can see, it's 1.5 inches off the bottom. It's 0.23 with a diameter, 0.4 long. But we may need to come in and click on the sketch to actually see what's going on. Looks like we've got a construction line helping hold that post right there in the middle of the part. Well, we need another one on the other side so we can mirror that about the right plane. The next feature is a cut extrude. So this is similar to what we did on our first part. We just got a triangle, 1/4 inch tall on one side, with a through-all cut that cuts all the way through both of the legs. The next feature is another cut extrude. It starts out as a fairly simple little sketch here. It's just a rectangle, and we need to come in and define the height and the width and the 0.35 inches off of the bottom corner of our part. Once again, it's a through-all cut, so it goes through and cuts through both legs. The next feature is a chamfer feature. It's very, very similar to a fillet. We're going to come in and select on the two edges to chamfer, and it's a 0.22 by 45 degree chamfer. So instead of rounding off those edges with a fillet, it's going to flatten them off with a chamfer. From there, we do add a fillet to those edges on the chamfer that we just created, so a 0.23 radius on the four edges that are created by that chamfer. The next feature is a cut extrude. Now this one's a little bit more complicated, so I may walk through it step by step. So we've got a 0.83 diameter circle and a couple dimensions here, 0.135. Let's see how that's created. So I'm just going to come in and delete all that. I'm going to start up the circle command. If I hover over the outer arc of this circle, wake up the center point, I can come in here and drag out a circle. All it lacks to fully define its location is its size, and that was the 0.83. What we're going to do is use the Offset Entities tool again. And if I come in and select on that circle, I've got it set up to not just go in one direction, but go with bidirectional. And then I've got options here to turn the original geometry into construction geometry. So I really want the outer and the inner circles, but I'm using this guy to create it. From here, I'm going to select this edge and convert entities, and this edge and convert entities as well. Now we just need to trim this up a little bit. So I'm going to use the trim tool, stay with the power trim, and I come in and slice across some of these things. Slice, slice, slice. Get that one, and then across the top as well. So that's how that was created. This initial arc or circle was what was drawn, and then it was offset in both directions to create that little notch. Now this notch is to create clearance for the post on the outer part to let it spin through the middle. Now I've changed this sketch a little bit, so if I hit the little sketch icon here, that will close the sketch. I'm actually going to hit the X and discard the changes and just stick with the sketch that I'd initially drawn. But there's that little cutout that it created. Just like the post, we need another one on the other side, so mirror that about the right plane. And one last feature here is this fillet command. So we've got a bunch of edges that we need to fillet, a couple faces that we've selected where all the edges get filleted. What we need to leave with nice square corners is probably just the area where the phone rests and maybe the area where that post goes through. Okay, so we're just using the rollback bar to go through and see how this part was modeled. So now we have both parts modeled. We're going to put them together in an assembly in just a little bit. But in the next video, we're going to look at how we can take these and have them 3D printed so we can see how our design comes to life.